Good to see you, everyone. My name is Robbie Howell, and welcome to the Enclave Aspirant Stretch Goal Classes Poll. What the heck does that mean? Well, let me tell you about it. This is going to be a long video, so I'm going to be trying to move as fast as I possibly can to give a summary of what Aspirant Edition is and what the stretch goal classes are and all of that. Aspirant will be Enclave's first ever expansion with a Kickstarter planned for September of this year. It'll add tons of new content and 6 more classes, which you can see on screen right now. Almost all of these are actually currently available to play as reward classes. Check out the Discord server for more information. However, if this planned Kickstarter does exceptionally well, up to 25 more classes will be added to this expansion via stretch goals. Yes, you heard me right, 25 more on top of the 12 that are guaranteed to make it in. That means we could have 37 bloody classes in this book if the Kickstarter does amazingly. And what's more, you, the Enclave player base, now get to decide the order in which these stretch goal classes are unlocked. So, how exactly is this process going to work? Well, let me tell you a little bit about it. In the description of this video, you will find a Google form listing all 25 of the classes that I will be going over in this video. You may choose up to 5 from this massive list, and your choices must be ranked based on which you most want to see get in. It'll be clear when you see the poll. Lower ranked choices will be weighted less heavily in the final tally. Whichever class gets the most votes, adjusted by weighting, will be the first to be added via stretch goal if any are reached during the campaign, with the second most votes meaning the second to be added, so on and so forth. Don't despair if one of your favorites doesn't make it. All classes that aren't added to Aspirant as stretch goals will be made available in standalone class bundles, which I will be hopefully releasing the year after Aspirant comes out, maybe a little bit beyond that, depending on how things go. Please make sure to vote now. The poll will close in exactly 1 month, depending on when I put out this video. So time is short, and I ask that you jump on it as soon as you possibly can. Also note, all listed details in this presentation may be subject to change during development. If you would like to learn more about these classes, including some of the back and forth that I've had with the community surrounding them, make sure to check out the Aspirant development channel in our Discord server, also linked in the description of this video. And with that, let us move into the candidates for the massive Aspirant stretch goal class poll. I'm going to be moving very fast. We have 25 classes to get through, and I don't want to keep you guys here all day. So let's dive straight into it with our first contestant, the Yeoman. The Yeoman is a double plus vitality, single plus skill class. For each of these classes, I will have some sample characters appear on screen so you can have an idea of what sort of hopefully recognizable pop culture and historical figures you can be looking to get an idea of this class. The Yeoman is a gallivanting bowman, equal parts show-off and leader. They focus heavily on archery but aren't a big damage dealer. Instead, they have a fun-loving social playstyle with many tricks up their sleeve and often build a reputation for themselves on mission. To tease one of their abilities, they have the ability Bullseye, an improbably perfect shot that cannot inflict harm, pinning clothes to walls, hats to trees, etc. If you've wanted to see an archer class in game, this one is perfect for you, especially if you like its lighthearted vibe and folkloric, generally medieval aesthetic. Next up, the Orator. This class is double plus vitality, single plus intelligence. Another double plus vitality class. We are going to be going in order of the stats as listed in book. Again, character examples on screen. They are charismatic speechmakers who use their voice to convince, manipulate, and even outright dominate. They are the most social class yet revealed for Enclave, often the public face of a squad, so to speak, interfacing with NPCs. They are highly skill testing. You'll often need to talk your way out of dangerous situations, and as an ability teaser, we have Gainsay. Interrupt an enemy, stealing attention being paid to them and preventing them from interrupting you back. The Orator is going to be a challenging class to play, but in the best kind of way, rewarding players who are quick thinkers and great with their words, and especially favoring people who have good leadership skills, though I'm sure there's many ways to play it goofy and funny as well. Next up, the Woodwoes. This is double plus might, single plus spirit. And what the heck is a woodwose? It's a fantastic old-timey term for a wild man, and that's exactly what this class is. A wild man who has rejected society and returned to nature. They are by far the lowest tech class yet revealed for the game, embodying humankind's idealized, innocent, primal state. They have a very unusual bimodal playstyle, peaceful and diplomatic in quote-unquote natural settings, fierce and brutal in quote-unquote civilized ones. And as an ability teaser, they have State of Nature. Compellingly engage a target without use of tools, language, or other trappings of civilization to force them to respond in kind. This is a really unusual class that's going to lend itself well to creative solutions to regular problems on mission, as well as good acting payoffs, but it's going to be the sort of class that you really have to commit to in order to get the most out of it. And it has an extremely different vibe than any class yet in the game, or any that are going to be revealed elsewhere in this presentation. So if you want to return to Monk, this is a perfect class for you. Next up, the Roadhog. Double plus might, single plus vigor. We obviously don't have all that many vehicles yet in Enclave, but this class would 100% change that. They are a violent motorhead with an arsenal of souped-up cars and a penchant for vehicular manslaughter. They use vehicles as weapons and have many ways to get them. An extremely aggressive class with a very destructive playstyle. They lean heavily into diesel punk aesthetics and have almost zero social options, but surprisingly high utility. As an ability teaser, they have percussive maintenance. Bash a broken machine to improbably repair or attach one of your weapons to it, allowing you to stick a gun on a car or something ridiculous like that. The Roadhog is not only going to be very fun and destructive for people who like chaos and violence on missions, but they are also going to be a really unusual problem-solving class that will give you a lot of very large hammers for which you will need to find equally large nails, so to speak. If you love destruction and have a good mind for figuring out how to avoid or capitalize on collateral damage, this is the class for you. Next up, the Warden. Double plus resilience, single plus sensory. Locking down opponents is a underrated tactic in Enclave and can often be very consequential based on just how the game plays, and the Warden does just that. They are a relentless enforcer, tracking down and apprehending lawbreakers with brutal efficiency. They are an info-gathering tank class, great at non-lethal takedowns, and have a lockdown-based playstyle that is most effective against enemies that have already transgressed. You effectively have to establish probable cause. They have a dark, urban fantasy aesthetic, and for an ability teaser, we have Long Arm of the Law. Extend an ethereal hand that grabs and pulls a target to you, then holds them in place. Intense, brooding, and gritty, the Warden is going to be great both for players that tend to prefer playing less chaotic, more rules-oriented characters, as well as those who want to play with the moral ambiguity of such characters and have them apply themselves to unusual alien situations that Enclave missions so often lend themselves to. Next up, we have the Vanguard. Double plus resilience, and single plus vigor. We've seen a lot of complex, unusual, avant-garde sort of classes thus far in the presentation. The Vanguard is much more straightforward. They are a dauntless shock trooper, both a breaker of battle lines and a shield to those who follow in their wake. They are an archetypal tank class with notably good mobility, good damage, fantastic disruption, and an interesting blend of modern, futuristic, and medieval aesthetics with a particular focus on shields. Most notably, they are a very easy class to play, perfect for new players. And for an ability teaser, we have Into the Fray. Dash towards an enemy while focusing their fire on yourself. Enclave, while it is a game that loves exploring nuance and complication, definitely has a major spot for more straightforward classes that players can bring their own complications and twists and interesting takes to. So if you're someone who likes to have a more straightforward class to build a more complicated dynamic around, or you're a newer player who wants to see something a little more conventional make it into the game, this is the one to vote for. Next up, we have the Progenitor. This is double plus spirit, single plus arcane. We don't yet have a summoner type class in Enclave, and that's for pretty good reason, but this is going to be the closest we're going to get for some time. They are a loving creator who pours their soul into their work, bringing inanimate objects to life. They're summoner-esque with a wide variety of constructs, but they are emotionally invested in their creations, making them impractical as cannon fodder. They have big acting payoffs, a perfect class for roleplay first players, and for an ability teaser we have Simulacrum. Transform raw materials into a facsimile of someone the user is emotionally attached to, real or not. The Progenitor is different from a lot of other summoners you might find in other games, and so if you like character acting or you just want to play a summoner no matter what it might look like, this is the class to vote for. Next up, we have the Mentalist. Double plus Spirit, single plus Sensory. A Psychic? Do we finally get a Psychic? Well, not quite. The Mentalist is adjacent to Psychics, but has a different take on it. They are a pseudo-clairvoyant who substitutes a masterful understanding of behavior for a literal mind reading. They're turbo-social chess masters, able to gather information, pick out lies, and subtly steer others. They have a loosely modern aesthetic, and they require a light touch. You have to remain diplomatic and affable. They have to establish rapport before they can get the most out of their kit. For an ability teaser, we have Cold Read. Pitch multiple details about a given target based on what you have observed about them, only one of which may be immediately substantive. The Mentalist is similar to the Orator in some ways, but is much more subtle. So if you enjoy playing more normal characters whose brilliance is what allows them to succeed based on their class kit, this is a great class for you. Next up, not even halfway through, oh my god, we have the Swiftcaster. This is double plus Arcane, single plus Skill. We don't have really a conventional combat mage yet in Enclave. Thunderbird is probably closest, and the Swiftcaster intends to ameliorate that. They are a wizard duelist with a vast arsenal of spells up their sleeves, which they wield with a deadly finesse. They are a magical fencer, almost like a wand-based gunslinger, specializing in 1v1ing other magic users. They have a classic contemporary fantasy aesthetic, and of note, unlike any other class on this list, the name here is a work in progress. I am actively seeking alternatives, so if you think you have a good one, let me know down in the comments section. For an ability teaser, they have Counterstroke. This is a magical projectile that fizzles hostile spells, meaning that you actually have to hit enemy magic with this magical projectile in order for it to counter what they are doing. The Swiftcaster is a very technical back and forth sort of fighting class, so if you love combat in Enclave but also are a magic player, or you just want to sling spells with a cool wand, this is absolutely the class to vote for. Next up, the Artificer. Double plus Arcane, single plus Intelligence. Similarly to how we don't yet have a Summoner class, we also don't really have any sort of Conjuration class, and that's what the Artificer does. They are a Magitech engineer, producing artifacts of great power. A support class, conjuring magical contraptions, combining them for more complex, powerful, and dangerous results. Their ambition is their greatest asset, but can often push them to fly too close to the sun. They have archetypal, pseudo-futuristic fantasy aesthetics, and for an ability teaser, we have Fabricate. Conjure a magically powered mechanical component, seamlessly integrated into another inanimate object of your choosing. Rather than using found objects to build something cool, the Artificer often creates artifacts over the course of the mission entirely through their own conjuration. This makes it a great payoff class for people who love to think systematically and have a more methodical playstyle. Very different from all the other classes that we have thus far in the game. Next up, we have the Psion. Double plus Will, single plus Arcane. Didn't we just have the Mentalist? Isn't that a Psychic? Well, remember, the Mentalist is more of a pseudo-clairvoyant who reads behavior. The Psion is the exact opposite, a destructive Psychic whose enormous power takes a great toll on their own mind and body. They arguably have the highest raw power among all revealed classes thus far in the game, but are crippled by overambitious ability usage. They have very little subtlety and a very high risk of friendly fire. Lots of opportunity for big acting moments, especially pain acting, and they have a near-future sci-fi theming, though they are a very much committed mage. For an ability teaser, we have Telekinesis, the classic. Remotely manipulate an object, straining yourself the more power you put into it. The Psion is a class that really rewards risk-taking. If you're the sort of player that often ends missions in red essence, red stamina, or with crippling injuries and just barely manage to ping off in time, this is an absolutely perfect class for you, especially if you're great at pain acting. Next up, the Eudaimon. Double plus Will, single plus Luck. This is probably going to be one of the most unusual and unique classes on this list. A shoulder angel, providing sound advice and a moral compass. They are a support class, but very unconventional, buffing, protecting, and directing while questioning allies' morals and intentions. They're wise but quirky and far from perfect themselves, and they're far from just being a scold. They reward players for engaging with what their character believes, whether the Eudaimon agrees with them or not. For an ability teaser, we have Trials and Tribulations. Reward noble suffering with restoration and a powerful gift. You could almost think of the Eudaimon as a character development facilitator, helping other players push their characters to new heights while still allowing the Eudaimon to grow and develop themselves. It is an extremely unique class, and so if you like support class play, love character development, or just want to see something totally different than anything another game will give you, this is the class to vote for. Next up, we are just about halfway through, the Spectre. Double plus sensory, single plus reflex. Enclave is a genre-agnostic game, and yet we don't have all that much futurism, but this class will change that. They are a futuristic reconnaissance operative with latent psychic potential. Primarily an info-gathering class, but also possess stealth, mobility, interference, and range DPS. They are by far the highest tech class yet revealed for the game, and have a big emphasis on gear, more so than most other classes. For an ability teaser, we have Extrasensory Array. See and hear through an object you brought on mission, no matter how far away it is. Big implications and cool emotional magical powers are all well and good, but if you've ever wanted a more dry, straightforward, do what it says on the tin sort of class, plus you like the cool futuristic theming and want to feel like a badass, this is a perfect class for you. Next up, we have the Correspondent, which is double plus sensory, single plus vigor. We've seen a lot of big combat classes on this list and a couple of non-combat ones, but the Correspondent definitely fits the latter category. The Correspondent is an intrepid reporter ready to risk their lives to score a scoop. Highly mobile info gathering and team coordination class. They have a notably risky playstyle despite being non-combat, incentivizing aggressive social play and throwing yourself into danger. They are distinctly modern and have next to zero combat capacities. Their ability teaser is breaking news. Teleport to an exciting scene. Chosen allies will see what is unfolding through your eyes, so long as you narrate it to them. Again, we have another class that's risky, but in a very different direction than something like the Psion, whose risk is largely self-imposed. The Correspondent wants to put itself in danger without actually being able to fight, instead using putting itself in danger to position itself around the mission setting, give their allies information, as well as the many social implications that carries. So if that sounds like a fun play style to you, definitely cast a vote for this class. Next up, we have the Stuntman, which is double plus reflex, single plus resilience. Once again, another more modern class with fewer combat capacities. The Stuntman is a death-defying performer trained to safely take brutal hits. They are a tank social hybrid, highly disruptive and with great mobility, and are equal parts cool and comical. They have a distinctly modern theming with an emphasis on the film industry, and are a particularly excellent combo with other classes that like to throw themselves into danger, like the Correspondent. For an ability teaser, we have Stunt Double. Swap places with a nearby ally just as they are about to get hurt, disguising as them in the process, swapping back after danger has passed. The Stuntman is a fun, dynamic class that does a lot of things very fast and has to stay on its toes, and will often get absolutely clobbered. So once again, if you're a risk taker, but especially if you're a risk taker that wants to play maybe a lighter themed class that's less dour and serious, the Stuntman is going to absolutely be the one for you. Next up, we have the Voidwalker, which is double plus reflex, single plus will. If the Stuntman was light and joyful, or even though it could be played cool, the Voidwalker is the exact opposite. They are an eerie assassin who toes the line of non-existence. A turbo stealth class with excellent mobility and high damage, plus an anti-magic subtheme. Messing with reality, however, comes with many profound risks. They blend elements of urban fantasy, sci-fi, and cosmic horror, and for an ability teaser we have a Rift, a short-range teleport, which may be used several times in rapid succession, but doing so will cause subliminal horrors to gradually emerge and pursue the user. This is another class whose risks are largely self-inflicted. It's extremely efficient, it's cool, and it's eerie and dark and brooding, and so if that sounds like the sort of tone you're going for, you should cast a vote for this. Next up, we have the Pugilist, double plus vigor, single plus might. Again, we have so many cool, fascinating, weird, boundary-pushing classes, this one brings us back to earth. They are a professional boxer with lightning-fast hands. A straightforward turbo combat class with a unique mix of lethal and non-lethal options, fast, aggressive, and boasts excellent endurance. They have a surprising amount of utility and some respectable social options, but mostly just punch people in the face, and their abilities actively incentivize using only fists. For an ability teaser, we have Haymaker, a charged up super punch with an enormous power ceiling. If you really love combat and want to get into depth with Enclave combat, the Pugilist is absolutely the best class on this list to do that with. Next up, we have the Tessernaut, double plus vigor, single plus luck. From one of the simplest, most straightforward classes on this list to one of the most weird, complex, and outlandish, the Tessernaut is a kinetic lab rat who plays fast and loose with the laws of physics. They are a physics puzzle class with great mobility and some of the highest wildcard potential of any class yet revealed. They heavily reward creativity and game sense, but can feel sluggish in the hands of a cautious player and will just die in the hands of an incautious player. They're distinctly futuristic with many video game homages, and for an ability teaser, we have Aperture. Create 2 connected portals on flat surfaces. The Tessernaut is absolutely wild. It is a class where you can very, very easily kill yourself and very, very easily break missions in half, and really rewards players who are able to effectively visualize what is going on in the mission around them because of how much it focuses on physics and your surroundings. If any of that sounds appealing, definitely cast your vote for this one. Next up, getting towards the end, we have the Exalted, double plus skill, single plus might. Sometimes it can be tempting to just play an outright god in Enclave, and this is the sort of class that can let you get close. They are a great champion, earning fame and reverence for their deeds. They're a combat social class that must build an image for itself on mission before achieving its full potential. Their hubris is both their greatest asset and often the cause of their downfall. They have classical and medieval theming with a broad arsenal, and for an ability teaser, we have Kleos. Challenge an exceptional enemy. Defeating them empowers you for the rest of the mission, spreads word of your greatness, and increases your arrogance. This is one of those classes where you can feel like an absolute god from level 1 if you are playing well. However, you really need to commit to the acting side of the class to really unlock its full potential. And so if that sort of acting-heavy power fantasy sounds exciting for you, definitely vote for this one. Next up, we have the Striker. Double plus skill, single plus vigor. This is one of those classes where you look at it and you just say, man, only in Enclave could this possibly work. And for good reason, as you will see, a star football soccer player whose speed, showmanship, and goal scoring potential have made them a celebrity. A rare example of a committed sports class, plays similar to a combat class, able to apply its skills quite broadly. And it's readily reskinnable to other similar sports besides football. They are distinctly modern, paying homage to the beautiful game with many over-the-top elements to dramatize it. For an ability teaser, we have Kickoff. Designate a protected area as a goal and conjure a ball, punting it towards the goal. Enemies are strongly compelled to protect their goal. As you can see, this is an absolutely bizarre class. How the hell could a soccer player benefit a mission? Oh, I promise you, it can. And so if you love combat but don't love killing people, or just want to see how the hell a class like this could possibly work, definitely cast your vote for this one. Next up, nearly done guys, I promise. The Tactician, double plus intelligence, single plus sensory. From the wackier world of sports to the more conventional world of military strategy, we have the Tactician, a backline military strategist conducting warfare from afar. They are a support class, best when directing allies in combat. Also good at deceiving and predicting enemies. In addition to their obvious basis in traditional military strategy, they are a love letter to historical military strategy games and are largely classical and medieval themed. As an ability teaser, we have Maneuver. Mark a viable path for a group of allies only visible to them. If they follow it, they do so at a dash. If you are a strategy game player, you will love this class because it does actually allow Enclave to be played kind of like a strategy game, albeit an unconventional one. So if you like the sound of that or are a support class fan in general, this is a class to consider casting a vote for. Next up, the Antiquarian, which is double plus intelligence, single plus vigor. Back to a slightly more modern theme class, once again one that is not super combat oriented, we have an adventure archaeologist with an infectious love of history. They are an info-gathering social class with substantial plot control and actively engage with world building more than any other revealed class, immersing itself in a mission's local culture. They are distinctly early modern in their aesthetic, and their ability teaser is provenance. Pitch up to several facts about an object's history based on its age and uniqueness. If you love world building in Enclave and love exploring the beautiful settings that your conduits create for you, this is 100% the class for you, making it an absolute shoo-in for players who love to revisit settings that they fall in love with. Next up, we have the Salvager, which is double plus luck, single plus resilience. Going once again from modern to futurism, though in this case near futurism, we have this, a doomsday survivalist to whom world-ending calamities have become a fact of life. They are a utility class with a major focus on environmental hazards. They have excellent plot control, survivability, and teamwork options, and are uniquely well fit for long-form play, but still entirely usable on standard missions. They have a grungy, post-apocalyptic, near-futuristic aesthetic, and for an ability teaser we have Waste Not, Want Not. Reuse a spent or discarded object for a new purpose, even partially repairing it and replenishing it. The scrappy, thrifty, frugal sort of playstyle it promotes, plus the really interesting ways that it's able to shape the mission's plot around itself, make it not only an extremely unique experience, but actually a very compelling survival game style option. So if that is your thing, definitely consider voting for this one. Second to last, we have the Swashbuckler. Double plus luck, single plus skill. A pirate at long last. Well, it can be played as a pirate, but there's a little more to it than just that. The Swashbuckler is a quirky adventurer who marches to the sound of their own drum, equal parts cool and comical. They are a hybrid combat social class focusing on plot control and have a haphazard playstyle, flying through danger by the seat of their pants. They're firmly tall ship era in terms of gear and themes, but are not locked into the pirate aesthetic per se. And for an ability teaser, we have Dangerous Game. Secretly handicap yourself. In the face of danger, reveal the handicap at an opportune moment to impress onlookers and pitch your enemy's next move. This is the classic adventure movie protagonist. And so if you've fallen in love with these sort of characters before and have always wanted to capture their feel in one of your own characters, the Swashbuckler is absolutely a class to check out. And lastly, the final class, we have the Squire, which is single plus spirit, single plus will, and single plus vigor. 3 stats rather than 2? What the heck? Yes, it is a bit unconventional. Let me tell you about it. The Squire is an aspiring hero who finds mentor figures wherever they go. They are a support tank with big acting payoffs, quite able to hold its own in combat, especially after setting up admiration relationships with key allies. Now previously, the Squire was double plus spirit, single plus vigor. But with the changes to the spirit stat planned for Advent V2, it is being given an overhaul. This will be the first core class to be released with single plus, single plus, single plus stat modifiers. And while I am kind of loath to break my beautiful symmetry, I felt obliged to keep the Squire around because I did reveal it earlier on, and it would feel rude to pull the rug out from under the feet of the people who have gotten invested in the idea and really wanted to see it voted in during this poll. For an ability teaser, the Squire has Entrust. Prove your worth to an ally to become able to proficiently wield a piece of their gear. This is another class that absolutely adores character development, but unlike the Eudaimon, which brings it out mostly in others, the Squire really brings it out in itself. So if you love playing nuanced characters who go from zero to hero and have a great personal journey along the way, the Squire is absolutely for you. And with that, we've finally come to the end of the stretch goal class poll reveal video. Wah, my voice is tired. So make sure, again, to cast your votes. Check down in the description down below for the poll, and let me know in the comments, which of these are you most excited for? Do you have questions about any of them? I want to hear about all of that and more, and again, check out our Discord for more information. Aspirant Development is the channel name, and in the pinned messages you can find every single one of these classes and some thorough back and forth from our fantastic community. Thank you so much for your interest in Enclave. I'll be releasing another video in May with the results of the poll, and I hope that some of your favorite classes are among those that achieve the highest placements. But until we see the results, my name is Robbie Howell. Get excited for Aspirant later this year, and ciao for now.